In the bottom menu you will find the questionnaire element to open the list of existing questionnaires. For now, we will ignore the existing ones, and just click the Create button to create our new questionnaire. The creation needs 3 pieces of information: the name, the template and the panel to work on. Let's dig into the details. The name. You can provide any name you want, but to make things easier for yourself and others you should agree on a naming scheme that you follow strictly. A good example is to use an ID of some sort that you reuse in other system or file shares followed by the name. The system will prevent us from creating questionnaires with duplicate names. Our name for today is 2560 Razor 2018. The template. A template contains the initial content of the survey, which means your default start and end of the survey plus any logic you might have. You may not see the template dropdown if your current configuration only has one template. Today, we are going to use the standard template for this demo account. The panel. CatGlobe allows you to have multiple distinct panels or groups of respondents, and we can pick which one we want to survey here. For surveys where you don't want to use people in your existing panel or from an external source, just pick any panel. Today, we do want to interview people in the panel aptly named panel. Click OK to create. After the creation, the system will show the menu with the list of processes we need to complete to finalize a survey. Our focus in this video is just the first item, but before we click that, let's quickly cover how we find our survey again. If we close this window, either by clicking the Close button, or just clicking outside the pop-up, we get back to the list. If you have many questionnaires, it might not show up on the first page, and we can instead use the search to find our survey. So, we input Razor here and it will show us all of the questionnaires with Razor in the name. To re-enter the Edit menu, we first expand the list item, and click the big button. So, let's get started on designing this questionnaire by clicking the Edit button. When you open the editor for the first time, we will show the Help menu that will explain many of the things we are covering in this video. After closing the initial Help window, we are asked to insert the first question, but first let's discuss what we actually need to ask in this Razor survey. First, we need the gender and usage of Razors to see if the participant is eligible to answer the survey. Then we have 3 commonly occurring questions: how often do they use Razors, which brands they know, and which brands they use. In a real survey, we would of course ask more questions, but designing these 5 questions show a large part of what you are able to do, and lessons learned for these transfers easily to other types of questioning. We begin with the gender question, which is a single question. If you are not familiar with the various types of questions, please see the video covering all the question types. Clicking Single, and then Create gives us this window, where we can see that the initial name of the question is simply Q1, and we change this to Gender. Now, I have all the text here in an external Word document, so let me copy the text over from there. As you might notice, copying from Word resulted in a lot of formatting being copied as well, and we are not interested in that, so we mark all and click the Remove Formatting button. Next, we insert an Answer option, first a female, and then a male, and then Other. A good rule of thumb is to set the Other Don't Know answer option to the value of 99. That means any changes in the future, where you add answer options, gives you a continuous list. The ordering of answer options sometimes matters. Statistically, people are more likely to pick the first option, which probably isn't an issue when we ask their gender, but let's set it to randomly order the first 2 options anyway. We do that by clicking the Arrange icons. Next, we add the question about usage of Razors. Also a single question. Set the name of the question. Copy the text. Remove the formatting. Add the answer options, yes, no, don't know, and again randomly order the yes and no. Next, we add the question about frequency in usage of razors. Also a single question. Set the name of the question. Copy the text. Remove the formatting. Add the answer options, seldom, often, and other. This time, we click the Open checkbox for the other, so that people can write what that other actually is. That concludes the simple questions. The next question is a multi-question, where we want to figure out which brands the respondent knows about. First, we follow the same procedure, set the name of the question, copy the question text over. But now, our list of brands may be very long, so it is not viable to type it all in, and we probably have that list somewhere else already anyway. Clicking the text button brings up a window to import a simple list of these brands. Clicking OK will then let the system create each entry for us. Again, we want to randomize the ordering. But this time we click Select All, and then change the Arrange icon for them all at the same time. Finally, we add the option None of the above. Obviously, if the respondent picks this option, we don't want them to be able to pick any other option, and therefore click the No Multi, which tells the system that if this option is selected, no other option should be. Our next question is which of these brands have been used in the last 3 months, this time a single grid. Again, same procedure, set the name of the question. Copy the question text over. Insert list of brands as sub-questions this time. Select all and randomize. Then add the answer options, yes, no, don't know. Again, set the last one to value 99. Obviously, if someone doesn't know a given brand in the previous question, then they also don't use it. Therefore, we don't want to show the brands they don't know. We do this by going to the Conditions tab and adding the option called Show Sub-Question for Options. This brings up a window where we can select our question, brand knowledge. Once we click OK, we now see that a condition has been added for each specific sub-question to only show it if it was selected in the previous question. And we can't forget the none of the above. If the respondent picked this, we don't even want to show the question. We fix this by adding a show if condition. The difference between show if and show if in clear is that the clear allows us to clean up existing data, for instance if the user pressed the back button and answered something else. In the show if window, we pick the question, brand knowledge, and we can either say that it should be shown if the user did not pick none of the above, or we can say to show if he picked any of the brands. In both cases, it is really helpful to have picked the 99 value, so it is obvious to yourself and anyone else what you are trying to do, not to mention it reduces the risk of errors. That concludes setting up the questions for this survey. I did say we finished setting up the questions, but actually we did something suboptimal with the gender question. In the background information we have on our panel, we already know the gender of the members, and thus there was no reason for us to create that question from scratch again. Let's delete the one we made, and instead import the one from the background information. We find the option to do so in the menu. In the library, we select the panel background, and select the gender from there. Now, there are 3 important settings here worth noticing. First, do we want to use the data we already have? Meaning, if we know the data, do we present it with the already known value filled out? Second, when the user finishes the questionnaire, do we want to save the data back as their current background information? Ignore the text about placement for now, this is done automatically for us in the default questionnaire template. When picking to save back data, the default is to save it right after they have answered it. And third, do we even show the question if we already have the background data? This latter option is very useful if we just want a current copy of what data we have. Now we click Import and go back to the list of questions. We currently see no changes in questions, because by default we hide the screening section. So, we need to go to the menu to show the hidden parts of the questionnaire. Let's just cover what screening is. Screening is the process of asking questions to determine if a respondent is eligible to answer the survey. It is closely related to quotas, which is asking questions to determine if we have enough answers in some target group. This means our use raiser question is also a screening question, so let's move it into the screening block. We click the Quota and Screening block and select the question to include, and then click the Order buttons to move the up before the Check Screening question. Even though the questions are in the screening section, the system cannot determine automatically which answers should be screened out, so we need to tell it. We go to the Check Screening question and open the Conditions tab. First, we delete the condition with Show Question if false because we do want to check for screening. Next, we update the Go To condition with our logic. If the gender is anything but male or anything but yes, they use a raiser, we say they are outside the target group of this survey. For this survey, we want to incentivize the respondents by giving them points. So, we go to the N6A and open the properties and give them 100 points. For this questionnaire with the name Raiser 2018, that is probably an acceptable name for the respondent to know, but in other cases the name of the project may contain the client and we don't want the respondent to know that. Therefore, we will change the historic name of the points given to Thanks, opening curly bracket 1 closing curly bracket points. That was the end of all the questioning. Now we just want to update the introduction page and ending text, so they are a little nicer. We start by editing the intro question and changing the text. Welcome honored panel member, today we would like your opinion about raisers. We can also change the various end texts by going to the questionnaire properties and updating the various end texts. By default, one question is shown on one page, but we feel we can put the shave frequency and brand knowledge on the same page. We click on Insert Questions here and create a new page question and pick our 2 questions to appear on this page. Notice many conditions does not work if they depend on a question on the same page. We are done with our survey, let's save it. And then test it by clicking Preview. By default, it starts at the question we are on in the editor, in this case Q1, but right now we just want to start from the beginning. Click Reset and delete data. When we click Next we can see there is no back button. That can be configured per question or for the whole questionnaire, but not going to show that in this video. The previewer works on the current saved survey, so remember to save. Walk through the survey. Check your screening questions. Check the brands only show those previously selected. If you need, you can jump to any question out of sequence, or reset from the beginning. It is also in the previewer then we can select another layout than the default. For instance, we can switch to the light theme. Don't forget to save the layout change if needed. That concludes this video. In the next we will show how to pick who gets invited. Thanks for your time and see you next time.